Hey you guys, I just wanted to pop on here at the beginning of this video and let you know that it was actually filmed several weeks ago. I had intended to post this video during Vlogmas and time just got away from me, and then I decided that I would hold off on posting it until after Christmas so that I could have a video or two in the queue and I could take a little bit of a break from YouTube in the days after Christmas and just kind of rest and spend some time with my family. It's not necessarily pertinent to just the holidays. It is useful information and great recipes for any time of the year. So that's why I decided to hold off on posting this. But if you are seeing like Christmas trees in the background and hearing me talk about my oven being broken, I think my hair is long in one clip and it's short in another clip. It's because I collected this footage a few weeks back and I just held on to the video to post until after Christmas. So enjoy. Hey you guys, welcome back to See Mindy Mom. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Mindy and welcome to my kitchen. Today I am sharing with you 3 copycat hamburger helper recipes, so stay tuned. All right, you guys, I have a confession. I love Hamburger Helper. You know, the stuff that comes in the box that you just follow the directions and you add ground beef and like water and milk to it. And it has like a sauce packet and some noodles and stuff in it. And then you have like a delicious meal. But I do know that I can probably make versions of those pasta skillet dishes from ingredients that I already have at home. And then I can be in control of everything that goes in them. So over the last few years, I have been trying out different recipes and I've collected a few that I feel like are pretty good substitutes of Hamburger Helper recipes. So they're like homemade versions. So I can just use seasonings and spices and ingredients that I have on hand at home. I can control what's going into them. I can add veggies. I can use whole grains. So I thought I would share a few of those recipes with you guys. My oven is still not fixed. They actually came to fix it the other day and they didn't have the right part for it. So this has been a good week for skillet meals because I haven't had an oven to cook with. And I just thought it would be a great way to show you guys some meals that you can make on the stove, but that are, you know, they come together easily, but they're made from ingredients that you already have on hand and you don't have to buy the box stuff. So here we go. Night number 1 of our little homemade Hamburger Helper experiment. And I am making basically a copycat version of like a skillet lasagna, like the lasagna Hamburger Helper. So in my pot here, I have been browning half a pound of ground beef with some chopped onion and minced garlic. And I probably used about a 1/4 cup of onion. Now I am only using half a pound of ground beef because I am adding lentils to this. I already have. So I'm using half a pound of ground beef plus about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of cooked lentils. We're trying to cut back on our meat consumption around here. You could just use a pound of ground beef. That's what's standard for Hamburger Helper if you wanted. So I'm browning that all together. And then I have also added 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and I've added 1 tablespoon of broth base because I'm going to use this instead of regular beef broth. Once this is combined, I'm going to add 1 24-ounce jar or can of pasta sauce. I actually really like this Hunt's pasta sauce, but you could use whatever your jar pasta sauce of choice is, or you could use a 28-ounce can of tomatoes and maybe puree them and put them in and just maybe season it a little bit extra. That's up to you. But this is what I'm using. And then I'm going to add 3 cups of water. Again, you could use beef broth if you wanted, but I already put broth base in mine because I don't usually buy containers of beef broth anymore. To that, I'm going to add 12 ounces of uncooked pasta. And I'm also going to add about a cup of frozen peas and carrots. I'm going to put a little bit of veggies in this as well. Now I'm going to use this whole wheat penne. I would much prefer to use like a rotini or a bow tie pasta, but they did not have that in whole wheat. And I haven't been able to find the whole wheat rotini at Walmart lately. I don't know if maybe it's just a shortage in my area or I'm just not checking the stores at the right time. But I'm going to use 12 ounces, which is 3/4 of this box. And basically I'm going to let that all cook together. So all my liquids are going in there. I'll bring it to a boil and then I'll cover it and let it simmer for probably about 10 minutes. And right before it's done cooking, I'm going to add a cup of cottage cheese. I don't have it out, it's in the refrigerator. I'm using cottage cheese because I prefer it to ricotta cheese. I'm going to add that just the last few minutes before the pasta is done cooking. And then I will stir in also 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, maybe 2 cups. I might use the full 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella, but I'll show you what all that looks like whenever it is done. I misspoke earlier, you guys. I am actually using the entire container of cottage cheese, which is 2 cups of cottage cheese. I like to use this Daisy cottage cheese in my cooking. I actually don't care for it if I'm just eating cottage cheese. I really like that Good Culture cottage cheese that I find at Target or Sprouts. But for cooking, I use this one because it doesn't have carrageenan in it like a lot of the store brands have. It just has cultured skim milk, cream, and salt. That's the only ingredients in this one. But I am using the entire container, which is 2 cups. Here it is. At least here's my plate. I've got Parmesan cheese everywhere because I steamed some veggies in the microwave, and I just usually serve those with a little sprinkling of Parmesan cheese. But here is the pasta, and it turned out fabulous. It was so cheesy, like it, you know, had like the stringy mozzarella cheese as I was trying to like spoon it onto the plate. And I just think this smells amazing. It tastes amazing. I think it's so much better than the box version, and I was even able to sneak in some veggies in there as well. So that's dinner tonight. Okay, I just found out something about my husband that I did not know. This is my husband's plate, you guys. Look at what's left on it. The peas. I had no idea you didn't like peas. Okay, so maybe leave the peas out next time.
No peas.
For tonight's dinner, I am making what I consider to be like the quintessential hamburger helper meal, and that is cheeseburger macaroni. Yes, my hair is different than in one of the previous meals. It's because I just went and got it done today, so I know my hair, I'm wearing it 2 different ways in this video because I got it cut and colored like in the middle of making this video, and of course, since this is a multi-dinner video, it takes multiple nights, so that's why my hair looks different. I went ahead and got it cut. I figured 9 months was enough. I needed to finally go and get my hair cut. But the inspiration for this comes from a southernmom.com, the website, a southernmom.com. I will leave it linked in the description box below. I have used this recipe before. I do change up the ingredients just a little bit for our tastes and our preferences in this household, and because I want to make it stretch just a little bit further, whatever, so that we can have some leftovers for lunches. But what I like about her recipe is the seasoning mix. You know how when you buy a box of Hamburger Helper, you get like that packet of seasoning mix that you add into it that gives it the flavor? I think she does a good job of recreating that with just basic seasonings and spices that most people have in their spice cabinet. It's a combination of paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper, a little bit of sugar, and cornstarch, which is gonna help the sauce kind of thicken up. So be sure to go and check that out. I will leave it linked in the description box. But I have already made up my seasoning. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown my ground beef with a little bit of diced onion and garlic. That is such a cheap and healthy way to add flavor to your meals. I am only using half a pound of ground beef. You could use a full pound of ground beef or ground chicken or ground turkey or even ground sausage, whatever your ground meat of choice is. But I'm just going to use half a pound. I'm going to brown that with the onions and garlic, and then I'm going to add 2 cups of water, 1 cup of milk, and about 12 ounces of elbow noodles, and I'm using whole wheat elbow noodles. I'm going to bring that to a boil and then turn it down and let it simmer until the pasta is done. And then, and I'm going to add my spice mix to that as well. I'm going to add my spice mix along with the water and the milk whenever I am cooking the pasta. So that will go in as well. And then I'm going to, once the pasta is done cooking, stir in 8 ounces of shredded cheddar cheese. And I'm also going to stir in half a cup of Greek yogurt. I know that sounds really odd, but I just think it gives it a nice flavor, the tanginess of the yogurt. So I'm going to stir that in as well. And for my family, I'm going to also add at the very end the rest of my cooked lentils. Since I'm only using half a pound of ground beef, I'm going to use the lentils in place of the rest of the ground beef. Like I said, you can use all ground meat. You don't have to put lentils. I'm just doing that to add a little bit of nutrition for my family without adding more meat. Now, I'm not going to add any other vegetables to this because I'm just going to serve some on the side. I have some green beans that I need to use up, so I'm gonna cook those tonight. But I think if you wanted to throw in like some steamed broccoli or some peas and carrots or mixed vegetables, I think that would probably go pretty well in this dish if you wanted to make it just be like a 1 bowl thing. Okay, so dinner is almost ready, but I did want to pop on here and say that I did have to add 1 more cup of water. I sometimes forget whenever I'm working with whole wheat pasta, which is most of the time, it does require a little bit more water. So I was watching it on the stove. I noticed that the water had dwindled down a lot and the pasta wasn't done cooking, so I added about a cup more water. And just now I tasted it and it is wonderful, but I felt like it needed just a little bit more salt and pepper, so I added a little bit more salt and pepper, but it's really great, and the kids don't even know there's lentils in it. And here it is, copycat cheeseburger macaroni, and I just have a side of green beans to go with mine. Yummy! The last meal that I made during this week of Copycat Hamburger Helper recipes was sort of a version of the Hamburger Helper Enchilada Skillet. So this is a one-pot meal that uses rice instead of pasta, and it's meant to be, you know, kind of like a Tex-Mex style casserole, and I sort of revved it up with a few more fresh and frozen veggies. So I'm starting this off the same way that I start off almost all of my meals, and that is by chopping some onions, and I'm also going to use my garlic press and press a few cloves of garlic as well into this pot, along with a pound of ground beef. I did go ahead and use a full pound of ground beef in this, and I just let the onions and garlic simmer along with the ground beef. I had some fresh tomatoes left from like a little snack tray that I needed to use up. You could use canned tomatoes if you want. This is about the same amount as a can of tomatoes would be, so I just used the fresh ones. And I also had some little mini peppers in my fridge that I needed to use up. I wanted to make good use of those, so I just chopped those into little small pieces, and I tossed those into the pot with the ground beef and the tomatoes as well at the same time. And I just let those kind of simmer together after the meat had cooked, after the onions and the garlic had sort of simmered along with the ground beef. I just threw the tomatoes and the peppers in and stirred those around until they were brown just a little bit. And then I added half this bag of frozen corn. It's probably about 1.5 cups of corn. I prefer the frozen corn because it doesn't have the sodium that comes in the can. You could use canned corn if you want. I would recommend that you drain it if you're using canned corn. The spice mix that I used for this dish is basically my homemade taco seasoning. I used, I think, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic, and then about half a teaspoon of cumin, oregano, and paprika, some salt and pepper to taste, and then also about 1 teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. I just mixed that all together. The cornstarch helps it thicken up a little bit. It'll help the sauce thicken. You can, of course, increase or decrease those amounts of your spices based on the flavor that you like. So I'm just going to go ahead and add my spice mix to my pot. My veggies have been simmering just a little bit and sauteing some with that ground beef. And I'm not using broth, so I'm going to use broth base instead. I think I'm going to use just about 2 teaspoons of broth base. So when I add some water to this, of course, it's going to basically be like having beef broth. Looks like I used 3 teaspoons. And then I added 1.5 cups of white rice. I did use white rice for this. You could use brown rice, but you might want to increase the amount of water that you're adding to this, because I added 3.5 cups of water to go along with the 1.5 cups of rice and everything else that's in the pot. You would probably want to use a little bit more water if you were using brown rice, and you would probably have to increase your cooking time as well. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a stir, and then I'm going to allow the mixture to come to a boil. I want to make sure that my heat stays moderate to high so that it will come to a boil, and then I will turn it down to low and cover it and just kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that it's got enough moisture. As you can see, I have that clear lid there, so it's easy for me to see if I haven't put enough water in it. This came out perfect for me, and it was just the right amount of moisture. The rice cooked, and this was so good, as you will see in just a minute. I'm not quite done with it yet. I'm going to add some cheese as well. But this was really, really good, very flavorful. I love the way that it tasted with the homemade seasoning mix that I made. Now, I used some pepper jack cheese with this. I would have preferred to just use regular Monterey Jack, but they didn't have any in the store that week. So I did buy pepper jack. It was an 8-ounce block, and I went ahead and shredded the whole block and put it in because this made a very big batch. This is more than my family of 5 needed for one meal. This is probably more like a meal that served 8 because I ate it for leftovers for several days for lunches. And here are my Christmas plates. I just thought it would be fun to show you guys. I know that this video is going up after Christmas now, but I feel like sometimes I always think, oh, I've got to save those for a special occasion. I've got to save those for a special occasion. But you know what? Every day can be a special occasion, and these plates were given to me by my mom from my aunt's estate. My aunt passed away almost 10 years ago, and these were her Christmas plates. And so mom made sure that those came to me. And then, of course, the little ones, my youngest daughter and my son used the little melamine plates. These placemats were made by my mother-in-law for the kids. They each have one, and I just think they're so cute. She gave these to them several years ago, so that's why the pictures are all from when they're really little, but they're just all Christmas pictures.
And of course, we like to eat around the table as much as we can in December because the kids like to light the Advent candles. And this year, I decided that I would just buy 3 purple votive holders and 1 pink votive holder, and then just use regular votives so that I wouldn't have to be running around to a lot of stores looking for pink and purple candles every year. I can just use regular white votives, and then I have my 3 purple votives and my pink votive there that we can light from week to week. But here's my plate. I just used some steam in the bag veggies to serve on the side with this, and some chips to go along with it. And this was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I loved it. And it was probably my favorite meal all week long. But that's what I have for you guys today. I hope that this was helpful and gave you some ideas. And I will be sure to check in with another video very soon. Thanks for watching.